I mean, before we get into it, how about, is there one thing, one person, one aspect of ancient Egypt that you're looking forward to going into in more detail?
I think, well, I mean, it'd be a bit obvious to say pyramids, wouldn't it? Because, and we will do the pyramids, of course, because they are incredible. But I remember a few years ago with a guy you would have known, Ed, a friend of mine who was in my band with me. We went and saw Philip Glass's opera, Akhnaten, all about the pharaoh of that name, who famously did away with the kind of polytheistic, well, I think it's horotheism, which is a sense that you've got one primary god but you accept others. Anyway, he moved away from the purely sort of polytheistic thing and towards a monotheism, focusing on Aten, the sun, as the primary god. It didn't really catch on, as we'll explore later on down the line. His son Tutankhamun was put under heavy pressure after Akhenaten's death to reinstate the old gods. But Philip Glass's opera is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. He has that incredible minimalist style where he has kind of ostinati building through the various instruments all the time. And instead of being a sort of narrative opera, as you might expect, opera historically is sort of solid 3-act constant driving narrative, it's actually just a collection of documents being basically read out, which sounds a bit dry, but it is pretty incredible as an experience. Hearing all of these amazing kind of old ancient Egyptian religious documents being read out over Philip Glass's music. There is some sense of narrative, but it's not as you might expect. So anyway, probably for that reason, for sort of personal reasons related to that amazing experience of seeing that at the English National Opera years ago, Akhnaten would be the thing I'm most looking forward to getting to, not in today's episode, but later on down the line.
Yeah. I want to understand a bit more about Rome's relationship with Egypt, and also more of like the intellectual side of Egypt. Obviously, you had the lighthouse of Alexandria, which famously was burnt down and subsequently set humanity back by about 500 or more years in terms of the knowledge that was in there.
There are actually 2 libraries of Alexandria, and there's a great film called Agora with Rachel Weisz playing the Greek mathematician. Gosh, I'm going to forget her name now, but we can always put it up. But that's much, much later. It's sort of 500, 600 AD, and it's kind of early Christians fighting with the Jews. It's all sort of sectional warfare going on. And the second library, which is much smaller, which kind of contains what was not burnt in the first time, also gets destroyed in this, and you think, oh guys, come on, stop burning this poor library down. It's on its last knees. It's a tiny little, it's like a reading room basically. Even the poor old reading room doesn't survive the ravages of warfare. You do feel for her because she's trying to kind of save what she can, but it wasn't to be. It's a beautiful film, very thoughtful, kind of slow. I don't quite know how it kind of got made because it's got sort of Hollywood resources behind it, but it's just a really interesting, slow, meditative kind of telling of the life of a Greek mathematician. Depending on how far our series on Egypt goes, we could even get to it at some point because it is interesting. The sort of political events surrounding all of that with the early, I think it's Bishop Cyril first possibly in the early church, the sort of Eastern church, how that kind of relates to it is fascinating, and how it limits what she's able to do as a mathematician, in a bit like Galileo found later on.